Hey, YouTube. I am Dr. Contessa, and I just wanted to introduce you to my new office. I'm sitting here, it's the middle of the night, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what to do with themselves during the pandemic. We're all kind of getting back to some sense of normalcy in certain states. I'm in Atlanta, so kind of happened a little bit faster than it should have probably. But hey, Timmy, and I just was sitting here thinking as I'm looking around and 10 o'clock at night. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was when you start your own business and how much work that is. It sounds good. It sounds like something that everyone should aspire to, but there are some true pitfalls that you really should consider before you decide to start your own business. Number one, make sure it's not just a whim. Make sure it's something that you want to commit yourself to. Because again, here I am at 10 o'clock. I just got through sweeping up my space, and I'm a doctor. So, of course, people think, oh, you don't have to do that stuff, but you do, because if you don't, then you have to pay someone to do those kind of things, which means if you're paying someone to come in daily, $80, $100 a day, that's a lot of money. So that's something that you have to be able to be prepared to do. And you really have to micromanage your budget. So if you're not good with money, then you really need to try to become an employee for life of someone else, because it's very easy to overspend, to nickel and dime yourself to death. Give an example. So my former kind of first big venture, because I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, but that involved me buying properties and things of that nature. But my very first kind of like business where I had employees and things, I opened a restaurant. And a lot of people say, well, you know what, you should have known better because restaurants are hard. It's not so much that it was hard in the sense of um, the the day-to-day operations part of it, but it's really just really being on top of your books. When you have a business that you have to build, especially we actually did a franchise. One of the things that was just in the very beginning, we had to follow the rules of the franchise. The store had to look a certain way based on what the franchise mandated. And one of the issues with that was what we actually we had a restaurant that essentially had the same kind of business before. So it really shouldn't have been very many modifications that were required. But the franchise pushed on a couple of things, which means, like, for instance, we cost us an extra $8,000 to do essentially a modification that involved moving one wall. We should have pushed back on that because that's $8,000. And then all the permits and all those things like that you have to get. And then, of course, just think about the pandemic right now. People open businesses, and every day you kind of do in your mind, if you don't do it on paper, this is how much money I need to make in order to be successful. And then you'll have another budget where you say, this is how much money I need to make to just break even. That means pay my bills and things of that nature. And if you're not doing that, if you're not spending, if you're not making that money, then you have to find that money somewhere else. So I know people who actually, including us at first, we had to use our money from our doctor job to pay for the expenses at our side business. That really shouldn't be what you're doing, right? You shouldn't be working a job to pay for another business that you own, unless, again, you see, okay, I just have to basically just get some startup and then I'm going to take off, but you got all your numbers in place. But if you don't have that, or you're not good at that, or that sounds just like way too much for you, don't do it. And I'm saying don't do, meaning don't start your own business. There are some true pros to being an entrepreneur, but I have to be honest about the cons. Another thing that you have to think about, say, for instance, you don't have the startup money, you're borrowing money from family and friends. That's one route. Or you worked hard to save that money to reach this goal. That's another route. But the third route is to take out a loan. Well, when you take out a business loan, a lot of times now they're requiring that you put your house or some kind of equity, something as collateral, something that you own already, or at least have a really, good way of earning money from it, right? It's maybe a property or something like that that you inherited. how much do you want this business? Because if that business goes under, they can come after your assets in order to pay that debt back. I just have to be transparent about these things because those are things that I didn't know in the beginning. It just was more of this was a passion. Fortunately, we ended up okay with the restaurant, but honestly, when you do the math, it didn't really make sense for the hours we put into the business, the money that we put into the business. And when we looked at how much revenue we earned from that restaurant, we could have worked probably overtime and made that same money without all that hassle from just continuing to be an employee. So we opened a business that is in line with our career, right? We opened a medical practice and we're doctors. So that was a more streamlined way of being entrepreneurs. If you have a hobby and then you're like, oh, I really would love to start this business. One thing that I will say, just to be completely transparent and honest, I actually went to a course and I proposed the restaurant idea to this course. It was actually like an entrepreneurial course to teach you how to be a better entrepreneur, how to be a better boss. And they recommended I not open it. And they said, this is what you should do. And this was brilliant advice that I did not take. But in retrospect, I should have. They said, what you should do is to see if you really want to be in the restaurant business, start with a home-based business first, and then maybe get a trailer or a food truck, and then decide, and do some trade shows or, get a tent at a farmer's market and sell your product. And then if that is successful, open a restaurant. Couldn't nobody tell me nothing. So I did not do that. I jumped straight to the restaurant, and the overhead alone was when the weather was bad, that's something I could have predicted. A lot of people didn't want to come out and buy. They didn't want to go. This was before Uber Eats and stuff. It really gotten to be very, very kind of like normal, but still my business was set up that it still probably wouldn't have been able to tremendously benefit from the Uber Eats or Postmates and things like that. So I just only felt compelled to share that because I'm sitting in my office, very proud of what I've accomplished, but I calculate how much money I've spent with all of my businesses, from my first property that I bought, which was actually a duplex. And I bought that duplex because I wanted the people who rented from me to essentially pay my mortgage. But I also had to calculate in the money for the maintenance on the property, and then the months that these people decided not to pay me. And I still was responsible for this big mortgage that was much bigger than had I only bought a property that was for just me. It wouldn't have been so stressful. So I just want y'all to think about that, because we don't always, as entrepreneurs, share the pitfalls that we've went through, or the mistakes that we made, or the advice that we passed on that we really should have taken. And we just show kind of we're successful, we're doing well. And I think a lot of us just aren't honest about that. And so a lot of the, information I've seen all over YouTube and the other social media outlets are, kind of telling you to start your own business, follow your dreams. Sometimes this is a message from God to start, this thing that's inside your head, but start slowly and be very deliberate and work out every single detail. And if there are 3 people who can tell you why you shouldn't do it, and you just want to ignore them because they're being negative, also make sure that you're taking some notes, because sometimes those 3 people are telling you really is God talking through them and giving you some, advice that you may be ignoring because it's more about a heart thing and not really about a calling. Because we do sometimes just get in our head and we just have to do it. And sometimes it's a mistake. And if we would have taken a second, taken a breath, wrote things down, really thought about it, then maybe this wouldn't have been the idea. And, I actually I write. I like to write. And so one of the lessons that I've learned in writing is sometimes you just got to get it all out. Like you just kind of stream of consciousness, just write, 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 write. But you don't want to publish that first, stream of consciousness, right? You go back, you just getting all these ideas out, and then you look at it and it's just a jumbled mess. And you go back and you edit. And of all those things, there may be one or two good ideas or something worth keeping. But the rest of it is just kind of nonsense that you just needed to get out. Sometimes, I'm not trying to kill anybody's dream, what your first idea is, or with this thing that seems like I just have to do it, and you don't want to work out the details, that's your stream of consciousness. That's the nonsense. And you maybe should just really pay attention to it. So just needed to be honest. I know on TV, we look like we're really successful when we got all the answers, but it took us a while to get here. And I just wanted to be honest about that, and just to say, follow your dreams, absolutely, but just make sure that it's a dream and it's not a nap, something you dozed off and you just, had more of a little off thought that you're now kind of passionate about. So anyway, God bless you. Good luck. Entrepreneurs rock. Only if you work hard and you've worked through all the details and you are organized. And just know, 10 o'clock, you're probably going to be at your business. After you put your kids to bed, you have to figure out some way to get back to that office and get it all done. Because it is the second, that's your mistress, that's your girlfriend, that's your business is now your new side chick. So get ready for it. All right. Be well.